How you doing, fans? Welcome back to another episode in the Sand podcast. We are excited to have another great coach on, and even more excited to have you all here supporting. Coach Howell is probably one of my toughest competitions that I've had the pleasure to be able to coach against. We had some amazing battles when I was at Pisgah. Obviously, he's still at St. Joe High School. St. Joe High School. There also is a middle school as well. But he does an amazing job as being a leader of the catalyst of the athletic program, but also his boys basketball program. And one thing about Coach Howell, and we'll talk about it more in the interview, is that anytime that we knew we were going to St. Joe, or if they were coming to us, we knew we had to be prepared because his guys worked hard. They played at a super high level. They competed. And Coach had a lot of things he was doing offensively and defensively. So, again, if you weren't prepared, you would definitely probably be in the other side of that losing side of it. And so it was just a pleasure to be able to do that. It was some hard nights preparing, some hard nights after, just looking at and evaluate what we could have done differently. But a great guy. He is very, very hospitable when you come to his gym. Anytime they host something, he has it. He's about doing it the right way, organization, being on time and discipline. So definitely a great guy. Definitely going to learn a lot from him. This is one of our first athletic directors, also basketball coach that we have on the show. So excited. So Coach Howell, welcome to the podcast, brother.
Hey, Coach, I really appreciate you having me on. Means a lot to me. Thanks for the kind words. I reciprocate that back to you. You know, you do a great job. I think this is a great thing, especially for young coaches, but also guys like you and myself that's been doing it for a while. We're constantly trying to learn and get new ideas and bounce ideas off of veteran coaches. So appreciate this opportunity to come on. And I've been watching some of the podcasts you've had and other coaches that are really good coaches and do a great job. And so just to have the honor to do what they've done is really means a lot to me. Very lucky to be here with you today.
Yeah, coach. And again, man, and a lot of people who keep up with basketball kind of know some of the things that you have been doing at St. Joe. And I think sometimes when people hear private school basketball or they see though it's a private school, I think there's a lot of misinterpretations, or there's a lot of uninformed information that they don't receive because, again, your guys play at a high level, coach, compete with anybody. So it's I think a lot of people are going to learn from you. And again, is what you said, we're all trying to continue to grow into this game. So, Coach, I've been knowing you for a couple of years. Obviously, I knew you before you got to St. Joe. I didn't know you I didn't know you then how I know you now, but I kind of watched just kind of how your growth in the game and just your leadership. So, Coach, share a little bit about your journey.
I've definitely taken the stairs on my journey. It wasn't a quick, you know, path to get to where I'm at. Kind of been at each level to get to the high school level. Grew up in Northeast Mississippi, a little town called Fulton, about 20 miles east of Tupelo. Went to high school there, played basketball, obviously, and some other sports. Just been pretty much my whole life. I knew I was going to be a basketball coach. Didn't really know, other people want to, they want to be doctors and lawyers and all that. And I was just around the game so much that loved it, loved the competition of it, enjoyed other sports, but the constant up and down of basketball kept my mind busy, and just enjoyed it. We ended up graduating with a degree in education from Mississippi State. And it's a funny path for me. I tell guys all the time, don't get frustrated if things don't go your way. My first basketball job wasn't even supposed to be a basketball job. I got hired at the middle school in Ridgeland just to teach history. Got lucky. They had a guy doing basketball that really didn't want to be doing it. He was the football coach, kind of got thrown in there. And so in the interview process, just so we got talking about athletics, and the principal there at that time, Mr. Alan Lawrence, asked me about basketball and if I'd be interested. And I said, yeah, that's what I want to do. So it kind of fell into my lap, and it was actually it was a gold mine for me, man. I walked in the first day of practice, and man, I had guys in there. And I'm like, this team right here, man, we're going to do something special. And we had a lot of success over at Old Town in the 5 years I was there. The first group I had as eighth graders, they ended up playing for the state championship against Malik Newman and Callaway their senior year. And so to see those guys just keep getting better and better every year. But, I think young guys and ladies as well can, take that and, keep it from getting you frustrated. But that's kind of, I left Ridgeland with an opportunity to go be an assistant under Coach Barnes at Brandon, and that was a great 2 years of my life because I learned a lot from him. He's a legend in the state. 25, 26 wins every year for Brandon. So those 2 years were awesome. And then the St. Joe job kind of popped up out of nowhere, and so that's how I got where I'm at right now.
Coach, that's an amazing journey, and you are right. The guys that you had at Old Town, and we may talk about that a little bit later on, because of course one of those guys, gave us some trouble and during our battles. But that was amazing, and again, that talent pool in that Ridgeland area was super, super talented. It's still kind of there. It's not that same group of guys that you had. And I agree, Coach. If it wasn't for Callaway, Ridgeland definitely would have been state champions that year. And even just getting to the game was an accomplishment, but also too, just being in that moment and still being in the game. Obviously, the game got away from later on in that game, but they were still there to compete. And of course, Coach Davidson, obviously at Ridgeland High School at the time, did a good job. And I think he sort of kind of, some people looked at he maybe did it in an unorthodox way because of maybe how he scheduled, how he played, his defensive schemes. And to be honest, and I can admit this, and Coach Davis is a good guy, I kind of thought the same thing, is because when you're on the outside looking in, people always have their opinions. But one thing about Coach Davidson, he stood true to what he believed in. And when you look at it, he got the same results that some people got, and some people try to do it the traditional way and never got even close. So, I'm looking forward to be able to talk to him more about that. And then I know you went to Brandon High School. Again, Coach Barnes, man, he is a good coach. He gets to the Coliseum, like you said, and he almost gets there. He almost gets there. And I know this year was a tough tough loss for him playing Northwest, but that just shows the caliber of a coach he is and the program that he runs. So that's amazing, Coach. And then obviously you're at St. Joe. So before we kind of get in more to interview, Coach, tell us a little bit about St. Joe. Tell us about your administration, some of your players, coaches. Just talk to us about the Bruin family as a whole.
Yeah, really enjoyed being over here so far. This is my 6th year. Obviously be going into year 7 next year. I've loved it. First year here, I was just doing basketball, taught some PE, taught some health. The athletic director who brought me in, he left and took another football job at another school. And so I worked with him doing some administrative stuff around the school in that first year. And the AD job, interviewed for it. They had some quality candidates come in. I think me being already here, knowing the way the school operated, that helped me get the job. But I've enjoyed it. Great support from our administration. Dr. Kinsey does a great job, not just in the education side of it, but she supports athletics, fine arts. And one thing I like about here, the faith side of what we're able to do here, like I said earlier, we pray to start each class. So that's a huge part of it. It's encouraged, and it's a great school, great atmosphere. We've been very fortunate to have some good athletes come through in the 6 years I've been here. As far as staff wise, I was lucky enough to hire one of my former players, Clay Weatherspoon, to come take over our junior high group, which for us in private schools is 8th and 9th grade. And then, of course, Coach Morrison's been with me the whole time I've been here. He was here before I got here. So I've been with him for 6 years. So those guys are loyal. They're hardworking. A lot of the same things that I like to do, they do. I don't have to worry about if I have to step out of a practice, that they want to accomplish the same things that I want. We all, the system is the same 7 through 12, which from coaching is huge. Um, we teach them our system when they first come into seventh grade and what we like, and it just kind of is cohesive and carries through. We make it a little tougher as they get older, a little bit more in depth, but that's huge for us. And here, we've been fortunate enough. We've got a really good girls coach, Coach Groves. He's a legend in public school. I think he's in the Hall of Fame for baseball, and should be, I think, 700 wins in girls basketball. So great staff on the basketball side of it, and we're getting better in every other sport as well.
Coach, that's a big thing, man. And I'm taking down notes. And again, I forgot about again Coach Morrison, man, and just being there from the beginning, man. And of course, being committed to doing what he, doing, on the professional side, and then also being a vital part of the basketball program and not missing a beat. I see him a lot of times doing some of the skill development with you guys, and I think that's major. And it was good to see Weatherspoon on the sideline with you, and that's something that's very, very good to be able to have some guys that you coach, taught, mentored, and then now being able to work back with you. That's such an amazing thing. And it makes that teacher, that quote they say about, teachers are the, I guess the lifeline to putting kids to advance and be successful. But then when you can come back and make it real life, when now it becomes, it's no longer necessarily a teacher student, it's more like a mentorship, friendship, co-worker. So that's a beautiful sight to see. So Coach, talk to us about some of the challenges of being an athletic director, because basketball and any, if you're coaching volleyball, softball, your sport is already demanding. Now, pretty much, coach, 12 months out the year, you have what you're thinking about basketball wise, not only your family, your kids, and now you have, I guess, not the sole responsibility, but you are in the responsibility role of each sport. So, Coach, talk to us about some of the challenges of being able to do that, and then we'll focus more about your program. But I think that's key, because I know a lot of coaches, they want to be the athletic director and they still want to be the coach. But sometimes it's a major sacrifices, because I even noticed where some schools are removing the athletic director spot from their main sports. And I hate to say main sport, because it makes it seem like other sports are not important. But I would just say it pulls them from the sports that maybe I say draw the biggest crowd. And I know you see a lot of the powerlifting coach may be the athletic director, or the golf coach, because it's not as strenuous per se. So, Coach, just talk to us about those challenges of being an athletic director.
I would say two things are huge. Number one, you got to be able to balance things. If you can't balance things, you're not going to be successful. It's going to overwhelm you. Then the second thing is it's got to be fun, and you got to love it. If you can't balance and you don't love it, it's not going to work out. No, no matter how much you put into it, you got to have those two things behind it. And like you said, you are seeing a huge trend now of, there's a lot of reasons behind it. We could go into those. It would take a while, but a lot of people are taking, AD away from, we always know, usually it was a football coach, it was the athletic director, maybe a baseball coach, maybe a basketball coach. A lot of schools are even saying, hey, we're just going to have it be its own position, because, you're getting all these, especially in the public school right now, they're starting to do wrestling, starting to do lacrosse. You've got all these other sports that are coming, and it's just becoming more and more and more. And, like as me as a basketball coach, we've got, 4 basketball teams just for boys. And I'm the guy who kind of, overlooks all of them. I've got coaches that help me there, and they may be the head coach, but ultimately me being the head varsity coach, it all falls on me. So it's a lot on your plate. It's a lot to balance between family, all the other things you have to do, but you got to love it. You got to love, one thing about it that I love, the AD side of it, is I love seeing kids in their element. You got these kids that may not be a football player. They may not be a basketball player. They may not be a baseball player. They may not play softball. But in the AD role, you can see the kids that may not play those sports. They can go do archery. They can do swim. They can do cross country. There's something for everybody. Like just at St. Joe, we have 22 sports or activities. And so we stay busy year round. Right now, we've got 7 or 8 different things going on at one time. It's a lot, but I'm the type of person, I need to be moving. I need to be doing stuff. It keeps me busy. I can't sit on the couch. I love watching TV, but if I watch an episode of something, I got to get up and go do something else right after. And so the job for me, I don't really look at it as a job. I look at it as a passion, something I enjoy. And I try to balance it. My wife and kids come to all the games with me. The running joke around here at St. Joe is I spend more money at the concession stand than anybody else because my kids are constantly buying stuff. But I love it. I love having them here with me. They have to come here because if they didn't come to the school, they probably wouldn't see me very much. So that's some things that might help some other people who are trying to make a decision if they want to try to be an AD, or may give them some information while they wouldn't want to be an AD. But that's kind of how I look at it.
Coach, I think that's major, and I'm glad that we have you on here because you're sharing a lot of facts that I don't think people consciously think about. And when I was listening to you, it made me reflect back when I was at Germantown, I guess in 2016 when I started there. No, 2012 actually, 2012-13 season I started. And Coach Ceramic, obviously he was the high school association now. He was our athletic director and he was the football coach. And then later on, I spent 4 years at Germantown. Maybe my third or fourth year, they gave him an assistant athletic director because it's kind of what you said. It's a lot of pull both directions. And of course, and his assistant was Coach Greg Perry. Now, my brother Justin works at Germantown, and Coach Perry is the athletic director. He no longer coaches any sports, and Coach Perry was a great baseball coach at Madison Central, won state championships at golf at Germantown. So that's his main role. And of course, he has an assistant AD as well. And so I see it because it's so much pull, it's so much give or take. And again, people still expect you to master your program. And you said something key, Coach. And most people in small schools kind of understanding that private schools, yeah, most people just think varsity, but you have multiple teams that you are responsible for, and you have to be that guy for, because you said it, Coach, if anything goes wrong, yeah, I got somebody positioned as this head coach, but they're going to come looking for me. And I love what you said. And this is one thing that I would like to see. And it's kind of hard in some schools is you said it, Coach. It would be great if you're a 7th through 12th grader on the same page. It makes it so much easier for the high school coach. So this is kind of more for our younger coaches who may be in the middle school, junior high era. And even with the high school, and I understand there's different relationships. Sometimes there's different falling outs. There's all those different things that happen, but it makes a major difference when you can have everybody on the same page. And if you can work it out logistic where you got your junior high staff helping out at high school, and just don't have them on the staff, like give them something to do, because sometimes that's discouraging too. Like if you just got me, I'm already coaching junior high, and you bring me to the high school, you just got me holding a notepad, then that's kind of tough. So if you can find that, and I seen it with Coach Howell's team when I was at Pisgah, I seen it, it makes it so much easier. And then now when you get to high school, you can really focus on some of the X's and O's, more fundamentals, because the system has already been implemented. When you got your system in, it's like a fine oil machine. So, Coach, I really like that, man. I wrote it down: 22 sports and activities. Coach, that is a lot. And I've often thought about being an athletic director a little bit, but again, I do see the stress in it. I see the strain that it brings. My athletic director at Richland now, Coach Todd Montgomery, he does a good job. He has a lot going on. He's the defensive coordinator. So that's a tough challenge. Then he's the powerlifting coach and athletic director, and he teaches a class. So it's a lot to it, Coach, and I'm glad that you shared that.
Yeah, Coach.
Go ahead.
One more thing I'll add too. I think my first years, I cut my teeth at the middle school level. So it kind of, that showed me the importance of how important that is. And so that's, I've always said, if you want to have a really good high school team, you need a really good middle school coach. And like you said, not just having somebody on staff, like give them something to do, give them something to do. Coach Morrison for us is huge in the skill development. Coach Weatherspoon this year, he's good with technology, and he's good with the skill development as well. And him playing at, Southern Miss, the level of X's and O's he has helped us also. But I think those years of doing middle school, it helped me be a better high school coach, because at that level you can't skip any step. You basically have to know, if you didn't teach it to them, they don't know it. And that's kind of how you have to take it. And we do that in every sport here. Our high school coaches help at the middle school level. Our middle school coaches help at the high school level. And, it's been huge for us. And that's how I feel. I'm not saying that's the gospel, but that's my thoughts on it.
Coach, I totally agree. And you made me think about something else. And this is important, and you see this, and I understand it. I've been on the side of one side of it. And what I'm saying in this matter is this: you got to let your assistant coaches, or you got to let your junior high coaches, you got to let them coach. A lot of times, and this is where I was at a school previously, and I was the assistant coach, JV 9th grade coach. And my varsity coach was, on the sideline actually coaching and directing. So the kids are confused. Are they listening to me, or are they listening to obviously the head coach? And naturally, they're going to listen to the head coach. So that's one thing that I would share with veteran coaches, because sometimes you gotta take your hands off of it sometimes. And I know we want it to go perfect and go well, and it will, but it gives so much confidence to that assistant coach, 9th grade coach, junior high coach, when the varsity coach can. And I've seen Coach Howell, he'll sit in the bleachers sometimes. Sometimes he'll be on the sideline. And sometimes I would do the same thing, because sometimes people get confused with, oh, he's sitting in the bleachers, he don't care about it. No, it's not like this. Sometimes you have to allow people to find their space. And then a lot of times you sit on the bench so they know they're not alone. But it's important that you do that. And Coach Howell does that a lot. He allows his coaches to coach, and I know that they value that coaching. And I'm glad that you said that. And Coach Brown from Madison Central said that too, Coach. I don't know if I know it's not the most ideal thing, but I believe before you start coaching, I think you need to start maybe at a smaller school, or you need to start at junior high, because really, Coach, that's where, and you said it, that's where you learn how to coach. Because sometimes if you get to a high school program, I'm not discouraging anybody. If you get blessed to be able to go to a program and you can jump right in as a varsity coach, power to you. But sometimes you can miss a lot of fundamentals, and you can miss a lot of building a program, because if you got great athletes, and we all know it, you sometimes miss or neglect those small teaching points. All right, Coach. So we talk a little bit about St. Joe, and I'm gonna kind of some things in together, Coach. I know you've been there 6 years, going on 7. Had a lot of great success. So, Coach, I wanted to talk to us a little bit about just your success as a whole, and then within that, Coach, just talk to us a little bit about your offense philosophy and your defense philosophy, and we'll kind of go from there. Because again, anybody knows and just been keeping up with it, your resume at St. Joe has been amazing, and you came in at a time where it could have went either way. Because there was a lot of talent previously. Right before you got there, there were 2 coaching changes right before you walked in. And so one thing I do give you credit for, I never told you, is just really being the stabilizer there for St. Joe boys basketball. And the other guys did a great job. And anytime you got about 3 coaches within 3 to 4 years, there's a lot of things that can go. So, Coach, just talk to us a little bit about your success and your tenure at St. Joe.
Yeah. Coming in the first year, like you said, I was the 3rd guy, I think, in 3 years. They had been through 3 different systems. Well, mine was the 3rd system that the guys had been in. Previous staff had a ton of guys on the team, and you know how that goes when you take over a program. Obviously me, I'm a big discipline guy, and I believe if you don't have discipline, you don't have anything else. And so coming in, just establishing the discipline. My first job was to keep Coach Morrison on staff, because when I sat down and met with him, I really liked his ideas. I think the biggest thing for him was he just wanted to be allowed to coach, like we talked about earlier. I don't know if he had gotten a big opportunity to do that before. I'm not saying he didn't, but I'm not sure. But I wanted to make sure I allowed him to use his skills and the things that he was really good at to help the team improve. But yeah, we've been fortunate. We've had really good players. You know, obviously Winford was the year before I got here. He graduated. We'd have loved to have had him. I think if we'd have had him that first year I was here, I think we would have got over the hump. But obviously he graduated, went to Holmes, I think, and then went to Mississippi College. But we had some talented guys coming back that first year. Obviously the most talented guy was Gabe Watson, and I had coached Gabe at Old Town previously when he was a 7th and 8th grader, and so I knew him. Had a few other pieces: Doug Watson, Keelan Harrison, some of those guys. That first year we made it to the Elite Eight. You know, I thought had I had them maybe a year earlier, we probably could have won the whole thing. But getting our system in place kind of hurt us. We weren't deep. That first year, we only played 6 or 7 guys, and that ended up hurting us at the end. We just didn't have enough pieces to get it done. Got beat, I think, against LaFleur County on a buzzer beater to get to the semifinals. But yeah, and every year since then, kind of been the same thing. I think we floated around 24, 25 wins every year. Had some really big wins since I've been here, beat some big schools, lost a few to some big schools I felt like we could have won, but they made us better. And that's one thing we try to do is schedule tough. You know, we can't help your conference schedule. A lot of people, they would look at our schedule and they would say, well, we were playing some small schools. Well, we were a small school, so we had to play them. That was our conference games. So we always try to make the non-conference as difficult as we can. A good mix of, you know, public schools here, private schools. We've even went out of state and played some. And so, but yeah, success, you know, I think we won District 5 times. You know, I think the one time we didn't win it, you guys beat us over at Pisgah. You had a really good team that year. We made it to at least the 3rd round every year. This year we made it the farthest we've ever made it. We were 1 game away from the state championship game, and we got beaten overtime to get to the state championship. And then we went to the overall tournament, and I think we lost by 6 or 7 to MRA. So had a good year this year, the most wins in school history. I think we won 29 games. So just we're proud of what we've done. We still have that last step that we know we can take. I thought this was the year. I thought we had the pieces, but we didn't get there. But we're going to go back to the drawing board and do what we need to do. We know some things we have to be better at. We like the group we've got coming back. But yeah, we've had some success. I think we've had 6 guys that have signed to go to the next level. And so that's something we can all be proud of here at St. Joe.
Yeah, Coach. And to be in the district with you, I guess it was 5 or 4 years we were there. It was always interesting to be able to watch you all play. Tried it as much as I could to get in the gym and put my eyes on you because, you know, you knew the style of basketball and you knew the style of play. And a lot of times, y'all were the best team in our district for a lot of years. I remember the first year I was there, it might have been your first or it might be my second. It was my second year. Might have been, I can't remember. Maybe the first or the second year. Those rivals, just the games between Pelahatchie and St. Joe was always pretty good because they were probably the team that can match up the most athletically with you all. I know we had South Delta in there one year, and that was always a major game. And just talk about a little bit about Coach, your offense philosophy and your defense philosophy, Coach, and just kind of mentioning just some of the games that we played. And I talked about this on a couple of episodes with Coach Moncrief, Justin Sanders. He was my assistant coach, obviously at Germantown, 9th grade coach, boys. And we would sit down and just like we did with Holly, we had to do the same thing with you. Like we would write down, we watch your film, we had to write down all your plays, all your schemes. And it took a lot of time, and that was just respect to it. And it was kind of like a thorn in our side almost. Like our guys would be up to play the game. And a lot of times, sometimes the intimidation of the skill set that you all guys had, or sometimes just playing at St. Joe, that's a great atmosphere, your fan base. And so it took a lot of preparation time just to prepare for you all guys and just what you were doing on a high level. And of course, when we finally met in the championship game, Coach, that was a game in and of itself, man, going to overtime and really just never knew how the game was going to go. It was very, very competitive. And even in your wins and even in the losses, you were always respectful. And I watched that game a couple of weeks ago, and at the end of the game, I said, Coach Howell came over, shook my hand, congratulations. Because again, we took a lot of hard losses and we had some victories. So, Coach, talked a little bit just about your offense a little bit. Obviously, I know you don't want to go too much and tell all your secrets, but again, and talk about what you like to do defensively. Because defensively is kind of where I like what you do defensively, because you make it tough for a lot of teams. And I'm gonna talk about that in a second, but just talk us a little bit about that.
Okay, well, first offensively, and Coach, we had some battles, and the thing about all those games is, I was always learning. That's the key. Win or lose, the key is to learn from it. Take something from it. You can keep getting better. But offensively, the thing about high school is you kind of have to change and adapt every year. Obviously, I've got some things, you know what they are, that I like to do every year. Our biggest thing offensively is we spend about 70% of our time at a minimum with development. Development for us is huge. And, a lot of people we talk to, that's the one thing that I take great pride in as a coach, is they always say, well, your guys are skilled. They're good fundamentally. And that means a lot to me, because that at least tells us that some of what we're doing is working. And so, but, going back to offense, spend a lot of time on your skill development. And I'm an open book. I'll give anybody what we do. I encourage all coaches to come watch us. We don't do it the best, but we try to do it the way we think works. We do a ton of shooting. We do a ton of ball handling. I was a point guard, so I'm big in no turnovers. That's one of our keys on offense, is not turning the ball over. And I think if you go back over the past 6 years, I think we've been in the top 3 or 4 in the state, regardless of classification, and fewest turnovers per game. And that's the one stat on offense that we want to be in the top 5 to 10 every year, because that means we're getting shots up. But offensively, what I like to do is I like to give my guys freedom, because we do spend so much time on their skill development. I don't want to box them in. I don't want to say, well, we're going to run, a set every time down the court. When we get the rebound off a miss, or if it goes through the net, we're taking it out as fast as we can. We're pushing the ball. We're trying to get it up the court, whether they make or miss it, in less than 3 seconds. And then obviously we've got a transition offense we run, and everything we do flows together. If it doesn't flow together, we throw it out. So our transition, we have primary break, secondary break, and that flows into our whatever action we're going to do, depending on the year. Some years our break will go into a 5-out. Some years our break will go into a 4-out if we happen to have a big guy that can run to the rim. And we've been fortunate the last 2 or 3 years. We've had a versatile big guy who could play the 4 or the 5. He could pick and pop, or if he was the first guy down the floor, he was going to run to the rim and go to the block on ball side. So offensively, a lot of freedom for our guys. We do tell them, there are some restrictions within our offense. We've been primarily motion based since I've been here. In motion's a lot of pass and cut and screening. Since we went to the private school league, everybody wants to box everything in on us defensively. They want us sag in the gap. So we're not able to drive it as much as we used to. So we have had to not really become just set based on offense, but we do have to run more sets now than probably I've ever ran before. In 14 and 15 years of coaching, the last 2 years, we've ran more sets than we've ever have. But I like to have a free flowing offense. One rule I have that kids love is, if you're open and you don't shoot it, you're going to sit. Because an open shot is the best shot we're going to get, and we work on it really hard. So all of our guys, if they're on the court, besides maybe one guy, they can shoot the ball. And so if they pass up an open shot, they're probably going to be coming out of the game. And a lot of coaches aren't like that, I don't think. And our guys like that. They have that freedom. And I think what that's created for our guys is they don't hesitate. They catch the ball and they let it go. And the percentages of guys who, the most open you're ever going to be is right when you catch the ball. If you catch it and you hesitate, now you're probably taking a contested shot. And so our guys, we want them driving it, catching it or passing it right when they catch the ball. You know, a lot of people say, well, you know, why are you giving this stuff away to people? Well, somebody gave it to me. So, you know, if you can do it better than us, you're probably going to beat us. We're going to work really hard at it to where we maybe do it better than most people. But offensively, that's where we're at. Like I said, we're running more sets than we ever have. It's kind of hard for me to go into detail with that without really drawing it up. But if they clog it in on us and we can't get a good look in transition, then we will, you know, we'll run our sets and we try to run those as good as we can to get our, you know, our best couple players an open look. But offensively, that's kind of our philosophy is get it up the court as quick as we can, get into our stuff as quick as we can. Obviously, if we don't have a good look in transition or in our secondary, then we go into our set and we probably shoot it a lot quicker than most people do. Some people, you know, they not having a shot clock, they'll hold it to get that perfect shot, but kids don't like that now. You know, you got to give them a little freedom. And I think if you know, what I say is I give you that freedom on offense, but then you were talking about defense. So I give them the freedom on offense. And I think they play harder for me on defense because of what I give them on offense. And so, you know, my defensive philosophy, we've got about 15 things that we say that we try to take away. And I know that sounds like a lot, but we don't teach them all at one time. You know, it's, you know, we start teaching them in 7th grade, and there's a few that are huge. And then there's some smaller things that as you get older into the high school level, they become, you know, you don't see a whole lot of, you know, Spain pick and roll in middle school. You know, you don't see a lot of flare screens in middle school. And so some of the stuff that we do is more basic at the middle school level defensively. I mean, we're going to play man to man. You know that. We're probably 90% man to man. If we can play man, we're going to play man. That's what I like to do. I think it's my philosophy is if you're really good man to man, it'll make your zone better. You know, it's hard to be the opposite way. You know, if you're primarily zone and then you try to jump into man, your man's probably not going to be as good. So our big thing on our man-to-man defense is we don't allow the ball to go middle. That's the biggest thing for us is no middle. We kind of force everything down to the corner. You know, because if you were to draw the court up and you said, all right, we're going to take away this middle, well, a jump shot's going to be a fadeaway or going away from the basket. And then, you know, we're playing a lot of kickouts, which, you know, nowadays everybody can shoot the three. And so we have a philosophy behind that too with our closeouts and what we do there. But no middle on defense, you know, one shot or no shot. You know, those kind of everybody rebounds, you know, nobody on the offensive end. We have guys that hit the glass. Everybody doesn't rebound on offense. We'd be terrible in transition defense if we did that. But on defense, everybody rebounds. That's a non-negotiable. But we're demanding on defense. We take pride in it. I think this year we only allowed about 30 points per game, which was, you know, in the top 6 or 7 in the state. And we did play some zone. We've got some things we do zone wise, but it's not a lot. And coach, I'm kind of throwing a lot out there. And so you can slow me down and get more into detail. Like I said, I'll give you everything we got. I mean, we're not trying to hide nothing.
Oh yeah, coach. I'm just really taking notes. I mean, a lot of everything what you said is kind of I'm writing this stuff down. It looks like my old scouting report when we had against St. Joe. And just the credit to what coach is saying, and what he's saying is the kids say is facts. A lot of times we played, it went 3 ways with us with St. Joe. They were gonna score a lot of points on us and beat us, and that's kind of what happened a lot of times. Or it's gonna be close, and we still may fall short, or we're gonna edge out the victory. And so a lot of times we fell on that first side of it. Even this year at Richland, coach had an amazing offense. Ran super fast in transition. This year was probably the best 3-point shooting I've ever seen your team do collectively. Now you had some guys in the previous time that can shoot the ball, but collectively, I haven't seen that many guys on a team, on your particular team, and I could be wrong, that shot the ball at a high level, and that spaced the floor out so much. So those are the things that that we often tried to focus on when we played St. Joe, because we knew you was going to be extremely fast. Your skill set was always there. So you had to, like, it wasn't anybody where you could say, where we just going to let him just, he's not going to be a factor. Like, every guy that you had on the floor was a factor. And one thing, as I heard you talking, as you were talking, it made remember this. You're probably one of the few small coaches who utilize his football guys. Like, Coach, you've had some football guys that have come through your program, and you got them to buy in because, again, their size and them not necessarily being basketball guys didn't necessarily always fit into your system, but you put them in a situation where you made those guys look like basketball players, and you really utilize your football guys amazing. And you get them to buy in, because sometimes it's hard for football guys to lead a football field and not get the same thing they were doing on the football field, because majority of football guys that played for you, Coach, they went on and played college football. We may speak to that a little bit later on, but though that made a difference in your offense, your sets were always good. And one thing that we learned and we tried to do when we played you all is that when we studied your sets, there were multi layers up to your sets, because you had to defend. A lot of times you had to defend the down screen or the elevator screen or the flash screen or the pick and roll or the stagger screen. It was so many things and so we said, hey, well, let's try to simulate those things. And you said it, we was one of those teams that we tried to slow it down, because we knew at that time, especially early when we played you all, we couldn't keep up with you foot speed for foot speed. And so I know, like, Ty Smith was one of my guards. I know he watched the podcast a lot. As he got older, he was able to understand and try to pick his spots. In his senior year, he kind of really figured it out. And there's some other guys on that team. And flipping to the defensive side, that's where we struggled a lot. We knew offensively it was going to be hard for us to keep up, but we knew if we couldn't manage the game, and I know that you all kind of peeped that out, obviously, in your scouting report. If we couldn't manage the game offensively against your defense, it was going to be tough, because, again, it was hard for us to get to the middle at all. Like, that was you could tell that's y'all's philosophy. It wasn't against us; it was against everybody. Like, and a lot of what we did was trying to get to the middle. And it was the hardest thing with playing you all, especially at St. Joe, was getting our guys to be patient against the defense. Because your defense, if you look at statistics, most kids in high school, they're going to play solid defense maybe for about 7 to 8 seconds, maybe consistently. But you all were a little bit longer than that. So our guys had to be a lot patient. And sometimes we fell short of that and we didn't. So I really, everything you said was true, Coach. And you said 15 things that you all do. And I know y'all do a lot. I mean, y'all do a lot on the side of it. And what I try to implement on my defensive end is try to do those same things, because you said it. Some kids are not as skilled and they don't spend a lot, and some coaches may not have a strong skill development. So when you're playing that man-to-man defense, you have to be skilled and be able to score at a high level. I seen you all this year play Florence, and of course Carter. He scores in bunches, but as the game went along, your defensive philosophy kept you in that game. As you know, good players are going to score, but again, you constantly keep making adjustments. So it's really solid in what you all do, Coach, on both sides of the basketball. And I guess even in speaking to that fact, I had this about the Coliseum. When you all made it to the Coliseum that year, the coach that was playing you all actually called and wanted to get a scout report. And I told him, and of course, it goes back to what we said, people here, St. Joe may not be that good. I said, hey, man, I'm like, I'll play this guy. This guy's going to be good. I said, they got Gabe Watson. I said, man, he was like, well, we played, I think it was DJ Stewart. We played them a couple of times. And I said, that's true. But I said, St. Joe's is going to be a different, opponent. And I don't know if he took it as serious, but you can tell in that game, I think if a couple more plays go your way, a couple more whistles go your way, and I know you and I talked about it, we're trying to be positive, but a couple things probably should have went y'all way that didn't go your way. So just respect to that. All right, Coach, so I know you coached in public school and you coached in a private school, and of course we have two amazing associations here in our state of Mississippi. I'm not sure if it's the best working relationship. I think it is to a certain extent, But I think obviously, everybody has something invested in their particular association. But overall, both associations are great associations. And I said that not to create conflict, but what I said is, Coach, talk to us about the differences of being on one side and then also being on the other side. And I think that'll kind of bring some transparency of why sometimes it's kind of hard for both associations to be on the exact same page.
Yeah, I think a misconception is we all have our, we all have our thoughts and how we view things. And, you get this thought in your head that something's a certain way until you experience it, and so, being in the public school, you'd see people that would schedule private schools, like for me, my background's mainly in basketball. And so you'd think the basketball is not that good until you're in it. Like you said, teams might call you about St. Joe and they'd say, well, St. Joe, a little small private school. And they would just think we were just terrible. And so, and until you play or you see what a team has, you don't know. And just because they may look bad against one team, that may be a matchup, and so could look completely different against somebody else. And I think it's the same way with the associations. I've enjoyed it on both sides. Obviously, I was in the public school for a while, in the MHSA, and enjoyed it and still got great relationships with everybody, like guys like yourself. And we still, what's crazy about us is our non-conference is a lot of, mainly public schools. And I like doing that because you get a good contrast in styles. And so some stuff I can't speak on because I may not have an experience one way or another on it, but we've enjoyed being in both associations. The one thing about the private school for us, at least in this last year and a half, has been, a lot of our district is we have two teams that we have to travel far off, but most of our district's pretty close, less than an hour. And so that's been good. Next year, our district's changing. And so everybody will be within 20 minutes, and sometimes in the public schools, you may have to drive 2.5 hours, especially if you're a 6A school, that. When I was at Brandon, every time we got on the bus, it was a 2-hour bus ride. And so, those are a few small differences. I think that in the private school, you do see some things like that are different. You may have a school in private school that's 5A in baseball, softball, basketball, but they may be 4A in football. And they do it a little different because what they do is all other sports except football, they take the number of kids in certain grades because obviously there's female sports. But for football, they only take the number of boys, which I think that's kind of good because, you might have a school that has 75% girls. Well, if you put them in with the other schools that have a tremendous amount of boys, they probably wouldn't be able to compete in football. So that's something that I really liked. One thing that's kind of been an adjustment for us is a lot of the girls sports are in the fall in MAIS. And so that's been tough scheduling wise. We've made it work. And there have been talks about moving a couple girls sports around, and there's been some votes on that, but hasn't changed yet. But I think in the future it will as we continue to add sports and things like that. So those are just a few small things. I think both great leadership in both associations. They do some tremendous things. One difference I know, MAIS is their association is K through 12. That's a big difference. MHSA is basically, just becoming 7 through 12, because you're starting to get some middle school tournaments in the public school and things like that. I know they just had a basketball tournament. I think they're trying to do some maybe volleyball and some stuff like that. MAIS, they do it all, even some elementary stuff, elementary swim meets, elementary cross country, elementary archery. So they have some things that they do because a lot of these private schools are smaller, so they are K through 12 campuses. And so those are some differences that you see. A lot of good things on both sides. I think everybody has the most important thing in mind, which is the best interest of the kids. And so at the end of the day, I think that's huge. I think everybody's always trying to do things better. They're always trying to get input, and sports are growing, all kind of different sports, esports, fishing. So they're constantly trying to be better on both sides. So it's great. As far as I'll go into detail about the basketball side of it if you'd like me to. Basketball, it's a big difference the way the game is played. Obviously, I think across the board, public schools probably a little bit more athletic. In my mind, I could be wrong about that. There are some really really athletic teams like in 5A for us. Simpson was really athletic. Oak Forest from down in Louisiana is really athletic. And so that's another difference too. You have schools in because it's not a Mississippi association. It's called the Mid-South Association. So we have schools from Arkansas, Tennessee, Louisiana that are a part of the association. So that's a difference. But I've seen some really athletic teams, but I would say across the board, the public schools are probably more athletic. A difference, that I also see in basketball. It's a lot on offense. It's a lot more set related. A lot of teams in the public school played very similar to us, trying to play fast. Not saying that some of the public schools don't run a lot of sets. They do. I think at the top of the public school leagues, you probably see a lot more sets and guys playing like me and your style. But across the board, when you play a private school team, you're going to get back screened. You're going to get flare screen. They're going to screen you a lot. There's going to be a lot of stuff you have to prepare for. Back to the private school league, seeing a lot of zone. And that might, when you say zone, a lot of people just think 2-3. We see half court 1-2-2. We see some full court 2-2-1. See some 3-2, in the half court. So just a lot of different zones to prepare for. On some nights you might see 3 or 4 different zones. Some teams with some length running some 1-3-1. So we see it a lot now. The bigger schools, the 6A schools, they will play primarily man to man, which we like playing against that because that's what we're used to. And so that's some of the differences. There are other little small things, but that's just my observations from the past 2 years.
Those teams playing you zone, I think I wouldn't see that bothering you as much because again, just playing when you were in the district with us, most of the majority of everybody plays zone. So I think with you having a zone package earlier in your career, I think that makes it easy. But again, like you said, when you have to go from different varieties, that makes it a little bit more challenging. Coach, I learned a lot about again the MAIS. I didn't realize the boy and the girl count. And coach, that is major because someone brought this up to me in the public school arena, and it's kind of similar. But again, it kind of sounds like an excuse, but it does have some logic to it. And this right here brings a little bit more facts to it. One school was saying where in our school, we have a population of kids that don't play any sports at all. And it's a large population. So with them being such a large population, that knocks you up a class. And so, but you're only playing with a small group of kids. And so someone made it where we could just, if we could just maybe make an adjustment to that, then we'll be able to compete more because when you have maybe 75 to 100 kids that are not participating in anything, that creates a challenge. So like you said, coach, if you got a school that's full of girls and boys, are not in a high number, that's a great adjustment. So I like that. I learned that the replay that you all have, that is amazing. And that really came into play. I want to say maybe 2 years ago when I think the overall was at Hartfield and it came into play then, and I thought that was pretty cool. And the production was amazing, man. That was something that was amazing.
Well, yeah, another thing too is the overall tournament, the way they do it, you have media timeouts as well. And so from a coaching perspective, especially for us having a small rotation, that helped us because it could get our guys. We got 4 extra timeouts per game because of that. And so, and it helped. We've got 2 or 3 guys that are going to go on and play in college. It helps them because that's something they're going to experience once they move on. So there are some things, the live stream, basically every team does live stream, and that helps, parents that can't get to the games. So there are a lot of good things that are done. And I forgot about those. I guess I've gotten used to them. And so kind of slipped my mind.
Yeah, and those are pretty good. Cause I got a couple more questions. We'll get into our fast break questions. Didn't realize out of state. I kind of knew it, but I didn't know it, so that's pretty cool. Coach, who's going to be in your district next year on the 5A?
Well, we're actually going up to 6A next
About
year. So
six.
we replaced Park Lane. We're
Okay.
gonna be in, it's gonna be us, PCS. Us and PCS are the two smallest schools. And
Okay.
then you've got Hartfield, MRA, Prep, and JA. So it's gonna be very competitive night in and night out.
Yeah, that is a tough lineup. I heard that 6A was pretty challenging on that level. We had an opportunity to have PCS come down to a classic we had at Richland during the Christmas break, and they do an amazing job. Coach, and one of the games that I did scout, we was preparing for you all was the Hartfield game. Coach, talk to us about it in a minute or two because that game was an amazing game to watch, and I liked the live stream of it because it felt like you was watching a professional game or a college game because you had play by play. And again, coach, the way the game ended for you all, man, that's like you couldn't have you couldn't have drew that up, man. And again, I don't want to take advantage of an old wound, but I just talk to us a little bit about a minute or two about that game. But coach, that was a game to see. And the part about it, if anybody could go back and watch it, coach, your guys played extremely hard, man. There was a lot of times in that game, and because I knew the score of the game, but I was like, how do I even get this part? And it's a lot. It's a lot that your guys did good in that game. But just talk us about a minute or two, and then we'll get into our conclusion about that game just a little bit.
Yeah, so I just watched that game yesterday, I think. I go back. That's one thing I do. I go back and watch every game and kind of look and see what we could have done different, things that'll help us next year. But it was a high level game. They got a really good point guard, left-handed kid. He hit the game winner against us. We took the wrong end of it that night, but we had 6 or 7 chances to put it away. That we missed some free throws. We didn't get a rebound in regulation, and it got tipped out. And their guy hit a three to send it to the first overtime. But they're athletic. They had a forward that was about 6'4" that could really play, and then their 5-man was about 6'7". He could play, and that was our first game back with our football guys. And so there was some. We were cramping up at the end of the game because, like I said, I think it was a 2 overtime game, maybe 3 overtime. But we gutted it out. Guys made plays. We were down, I think, 10 or 12 with about 3.5 minutes left, and we come back. We took the lead. We went up by 3 in the last couple seconds, and then, like I was referring to earlier, we didn't secure a rebound. It got tipped out. Guy in the corner makes a 3 to send it to overtime, and then obviously at the end of the game, the point guard from Hartfield, he hits basically a half court shot to win it against us, and so it was a heartbreaker. That was a game we knew it. We knew we were going to be going up to 6A, so that was a game we wanted to win just to kind of show that we could compete, which I think we showed we could compete. We ended up beating. I think we ended up beating Prep the next week. Had we won that Hartfield game, I don't know if we'd have played as good against Prep. It was early in the year, but we were still trying to figure some things out. But the guys did a good job. It was a great game to watch. I think the fans all got their money's worth coming that night.
Yeah, coach, it was a great game to be able to see that. And coach, and was it was it double overtime?
I think it was double overtime.
Yeah, so that was a good game to be a part of. All right, fans, this is the fast break segment of it, one of the fan favorites of the In the Sand podcast, where we just ask our guests some random questions to generate good conversation. So I'm gonna put Coach on the spot with this one, and again, give Coach a little bit of break because he had a lot of great players. Because the question asks, Coach, you got 5 players. What's your all-time starting 5 of the players you have coached?
Oh man, I'm gonna have the bullseye on my back answering this. Man, I've had so many good ones. I
Yeah.
thought about it. You kind of gave me a heads up on this one, and I thought about it, and I could probably name about 25. Just really, really good players. But if I had to just pick top 5 guys, not going by position, just total, definitely Gabe Watson, I would have there. Quez Williamson, I'd have him on there. Javius McKinnis, obviously, just finishing up playing at Ole Miss. Jaden Smith, who was our point guard this year, that's going to go on and play in college. Really do it all player. I mean, he doesn't have a weakness in his game. And then, of course, Doug Watson just got finished his career up at Millsaps. He was their leading scorer. So those five guys, I could name off 15 more that are.
Yeah, those were some good guys to coach against. Again, had opportunity, of course, play Gabe when he played for you. Again, Quiz, interesting story. He came to Germantown for a little bit, went back to Brandon. We hated to lose him. Of course, J Mac, I kind of wish he would have stayed with Jackson State because I think that was the key to keep us from winning the SWAC. But I'm glad he got the Ole Miss. First time seeing Jaden Smith, and Jaden Smith has a great family. His family knows my wife's family. Man, and he could do it all, Coach. Like, we tried to stop him when we played you all, but had no answer, man. He was relentless, man. And of course, Doug, man. Doug, man, good quality guy, man. And he was consistent for you even at a young age. And so it was good to see him as well. All right, Coach, what's the greatest game you've ever been a part of?
Oh man, that's tough. I can't think of how many games I've coached in now. Probably some of the toughest one. The Brandon Northwest Rankin rival was huge. Give you an example of that. We played over at Northwest. We beat them several times in a row. We played over there, and they were up on us late in the game. I think we maybe had 4 seconds left. We had Legarius White, point guard, that was, he played for me at Ridgeland, and then he transferred and ended up coming to Brandon and playing for us. But we're down 2 with about 4 seconds left. We got to go the length of the floor. And Northwest Rankin, their fans were already leaving, thinking they had the game won. And we call a timeout and draw up a set. We get Legarius the ball on the run, and he crosses half court and hits a shot right there. That was a dagger in their heart, and that was big because that was a rivalry game, and so at their place, they had the momentum. So that was a big one. Then, of course, the Brandon Meridian games, those were huge because they were loaded with talent. We were really good. I think at one time they were number 1 in the state and on like a 17 or 18 game winning streak, ranked in the nation. And we beat them at Brandon. That was a huge one. The St. Joe Hartfield game you were talking about, that was a good game. Me and you with some overtime games. Those were great games. So been lucky enough to have good teams and be a part of some big time games. So kind of, you could pick any one of those really.
Because those some classic games, man. Coach, NBA starting 5, all-time starting 5.
Oh man, this one's tough. I'm gonna make the young guys mad with this one. I'm old school. I grew up watching Jordan and Pippen, and I was, obviously everybody was a big Bulls fan then. So at the point guard spot, I'm gonna probably go Magic. At the 2, I'm gonna go obviously Jordan. And it gets kind of tough at the 3 and 4 because I could have went a bunch of different ways with that. But after Jordan retired, Kobe was kind of my guy. So I'm going to go with Kobe at the 3. That was tough being a Bulls fan because I kind of wanted to put Pippen there, but I'm going to go with Kobe because I think one game on the line, he's the guy I want at the 3. At the 4, I'm torn on this one. I think I could go either way, Bird or Durant. That one's tough. In an athletic game, I probably go Durant. Slow down game, I'm going to go Bird. At the 5, Shaq or Hakeem would be my 5. In today's game, I'd probably go Hakeem. When Shaq played, I'd probably go Shaq. But, I'm kind of on the fence right there, but that's my basically 7. But and I don't have LeBron in there, so I'm going to get attacked.
All right, Coach. Yeah, I like you. I like your picks. Everybody kind of consistently chose the 2 I've seen in Magic and Steph. Everybody has been consistent with Michael Jordan at the 2. Kobe Bryant, I think only 2 people chose Kobe. And that's weird to be able to say in the all-time starting 5, but I definitely understand. I think maybe you and Coach Tadlock chose Kobe. Bird and Durant, I had that conversation with my assistant coach. He says Bird is 10 times better than Kevin Durant, but he's true old school to the heart. So as for you, Thad Bridges, and then Shaq and Hakeem, I actually chose. I'm like you. I probably would have chosen Hakeem as well, but Shaq was so dominant. And I told somebody, I think maybe been the last episode, if Shaq could have stayed that same size that he was maybe that second or third year in Orlando. Oh man, coach, I think that was been something to be able to see. All right, so coach, let's talk about this. What are your top 5 basketball facilities that you have been in, seen? And that's a different question. This is the first time we had this question. So, top 5 basketball facilities.
High school.
It's on you, coach. You go high school, NBA, college, but you can't say St. Joe because y'all got a great facility. And that's one thing I should have said. Big up the coach upgrading that facility because when I first got there to where it is, it's totally different. But I don't want to steal the show. So we'll put St. Joe will be in there, but you can't say it. So give me 5 more.
Definitely St. Andrews, number one. When you take the whole, gym where they play, weight room, coaches' offices, film room. I mean, that's definitely great. Biloxi's got a great facility. They've got maybe 3 or 4 gyms on campus. The gym they play in is nicer than it's like an arena, and so it's definitely a nice one. Jackson Prep's got a great facility. Their gym itself they play in is not one of the bigger ones, but when you take in all facilities, their practice gym is right next to it with the weight room. Coach's office is right there. That's a nice one. Brandon obviously is a nice one. Their coach's office is right there, close to the court, close to the locker rooms. And then their practice gym is right there, close to the game court. Raymond, obviously a new facility, really, really nice, can seat a ton of people. That's really nice. Another one that I just thought of is East Webster. I know you guys played there. It's not the biggest, but it's really nice. It's got the 360 seating around it for high school kids to be able to experience that. I think that helps them. Definitely college wise, I think I might have hit on Ole Miss has probably one of the nicest college facilities there is. Mississippi State's renovating theirs right now. I think it's going to be nice. So those are some right there, just off the top of my head.
Coach, I like that list. You right. We played at East Webster, and it was a long drive for us, 2 hours away. I had opportunity to meet Coach Ginn, and we just took that trip, Coach, because like you, just had big aspirations to, dream big, to get to the Coliseum, and that was probably the closest maybe area that we could go that kind of had that feel, the goals that were similar to there. So we made that trip. It was a long drive, but we made it. And I like what you said, Coach, and I'm hopefully some principals, athletic directors will hear this. A practice gym is so vital. And I'm really hoping and wishing that when the schools are being built from now on, that you add that practice gym. That was one thing that was big when I was at Germantown. We had the practice gym. So many things you can do. So practice gym is good, but coach, I like those arenas. I forgot about Biloxi. I went to Biloxi a couple of years ago, and you're right, coach, to be able to have those type of courts and they're not far away, coach, man, you can get so much done. And coach, I'm glad you said that. I forgot about this. So, man, big ups to all of those facilities. Coach, all-time coaching staff. Of course, you get to choose 5 guys or ladies to be on your staff. Again, you can't choose anybody on your staff. So, of course, no Coach Morris and no Weatherspoon. I know they would be on your staff. So, outside of those 2 guys, name me 5 people that would be on your coaching staff. It could be NBA, college. They could be dead or alive, high school. Just all-time coaching list.
It's tough. The high school ranks. Guy like you would be on there as prepared as you are. Coach Barnes, with the way he's able to talk to guys and get inside their mind. That's a lot of people don't realize about Coach Barnes, that man, the way that he can read players and get in their minds. I'd have him on there. So I guess that's 2. Phil Jackson, obviously, and Phil's a great coach, not because the X's and O's. Phil's a great coach because you think about all the different egos he had to manage, and that's a job in itself. Managing Kobe, Shaq, MJ, Dennis Rodman, Scottie Pippen, just being able to do that, and then still, getting the role players on those teams to buy in and accept their role. So that's huge. So I guess that's 3. Probably one of the most prepared guys that I've had to coach against is Coach Wise over at Prep, who I, just left and took a job back up in Memphis. I'd have him on there just from a scouting perspective. And some of his X's and O's he runs are great. Female coach would probably be Stephanie Murphy, who was over at Brandon and now is at the head coach at Kahoma, because of her skill development and mine kind of match up. She's huge into the skill development like I am, and so having her around so I wouldn't have to do as much of it would probably be a good thing.
Coach, I
I
like.
think that's fine.
Yes, sir. I like the list, man, and shout out to you, man. I definitely love to have you on my staff as well, just because of your energy and your dedication to it. A couple guys and young ladies, I mean, of course, young lady that you have on here. I thought about Phil Jackson when I watched The Last Dance. This is one thing that I took from that, and I love Phil Jackson for all the reasons that you said, and just to hit on one point, when he allowed Dennis Rodman to leave and go to Vegas. Obviously, he didn't come back on time, but that showed me, and I'm hoping that coaches see this, and some of the young players, you can't treat everybody the same. Everybody needs something different. And to me, that made me feel a little bit more comfortable of doing certain things for certain players because they needed that. Coach Wise, I mean, he's a good guy. He would often call me about you all, coaches. This is much respect to you. He was always concerned about how could he find a way to beat St. Joe. So he would often call, and I told him what I could. But again, I said, Coach Howell, and I said, there's no secret. He said, yeah, I know. I got all the film. I just want to just pick your brain and see. And I said, Coach, he beat me pretty bad these couple of years, but man, this is what he has to do. But I said, Coach, I told him this year too. I said, Coach, they shoot the 3-point ball so well. So he is a good guy. And then Coach Murphy, she's supposed to be on the episode in a couple of weeks, so I'm excited about that. And I gotta definitely tell her that you gave her a shout out. Hopefully she's watching, but I know if she's not, she's gonna go back and watch it when I tell her. Last two questions. I got this question on here. I was gonna ask who's your GOAT.
All right, so 3 reasons. Like I said, I probably could give 20. Number one, before the ball even, got tossed up by the referee, the opponents knew what was coming. He obviously heart of a champion. Number two, I think he did what it took, no matter as he was aging, he kept finding different ways to get better. Couldn't shoot the 3, got better at shooting the 3, always shot free throws really well, put on some weight later on in his career so he could post up more. Always was the best defender on the court. Could play any position he needed to play. Number 3, he did it when it mattered. Obviously, at every level, he won, college, professional, Olympics. So even when you knew he was getting the ball, you still couldn't stop him. A lot of people talk about the shot he made against Russell to win the championship in '98, but the play that he made before to get the ball back, stealing the ball from Malone, that's huge, because if that play doesn't happen, you probably don't win. And so just all those things, he just had it all. Perfect size, huge hands, athletic, but most importantly, the mental side of it. He just ripped your heart out. And so you knew the next time you played him, it wasn't, and if you talked junk to him, it just made it worse. So, that's what I'm going to go with. The young guys, the 30 and under crowd will be mad, but it is what it is.
Coach, I like that, man. And this is the biggest thing I like about you too, Coach. You pay attention to detail. I go back to that same play with Karl Malone, man. And even if you go back to maybe a couple plays before that, everybody know Coach, I think it's Coach Sloan. Is it Sloan? Did I pronounce that right?
Jerry Sloan, yep.
Yeah, they ran Jerry Sloan. They ran that post to Karl every time, and they ran it consecutively. And like you said, Jordan understood that we know where it's coming. And if you watch it, of course, people have broken it down before, but I love to watch it. The man goes through baseline, Jordan stays and gets that steal. So, Coach, again, that's one thing I like about you. Always paying attention to detail. All right, Coach, we coming to the final shot. So, Coach, our final shot for those who may be new to the podcast is an opportunity for our coach to kind of give their last statement, kind of conclusion before we wrap up. So, Coach Howell, take your last shot.
Yeah, I really appreciate you guys having me on. I've been fortunate enough to be around a lot of coaches that have given back to me. And so to be able to help somebody else, and anything I said might only help one person, but if it does, then that's good. That's why we're here, to share what we have, and we're always learning. That's what I'll tell young coaches, even older coaches. They, keep learning. That nobody's a finished product. So stay at it, stay upbeat, be positive about it. Remember why you do what you do. If I can help in any way, I'm here. As you know, especially for any ads or basketball coaches that may just need a fresh idea. I might have something that might could help you. It might not help you, but it might get you thinking. And so that's the key. Just get to thinking and thinking about different ways to do stuff. Always trying to look for ways to improve.
Coach, again, it's amazing. Of course, we talk all the time. We pretty much talk once or twice a year. So, Coach, it's good to be able to talk to you on this platform. Coach, again, I think highly of you. Obviously, I think people just listening to this podcast can see your high intellect and your passion for the game and your passion for people. So I'm excited for you. I know you're going into a gauntlet next year with in 6A. But I believe that what you do, Coach, and what you do on a consistent level and being a player's coach, and I know some individuals might be considering, do I want to play at a particular school? Again, I'm not advocating. I'm not an advocate for anybody, but I do know Coach Howell. I know he's a great coach. So that's, he's a player coach and he's going to be there for you. So again, fans, I thank you for watching another great episode. Until we see you next time, as I always say, be kind and be nice. And we'll see you later.